And what a cast, unbelievable cast.
Oh my God, Paul Newman, Bill Holden.
And you could sit down by Fred Astaire or O.J. Simpson or Jennifer Jones and have a chat.
Everybody would come and watch everybody else's scenes.
Paul Newman and Steve McQueen together in the same movie? Unbelievable.
It was huge. I mean, my God.
Being on the set was like being at a really glamorous Hollywood party, day after day after day.
They only had 6 so-called star dressing rooms. So Irwin had built 15 star dressing rooms that sat outside the soundstage and were identical in every way.
They were very elegant, and they had showers and beds and sitting rooms and everything you could want.
And my door opened onto Bill Holden's door. So being a 3-month shoot, I got to know Bill Holden very, very well, because every day when we weren't shooting, we were sitting on in our door frames, looking at each other on this little street outside from our dressing rooms.
One of the things that really stands out was Bill Holden. I mean, Bill was kind of wonderful because everybody seemed to have friends of friends that wanted to get on the set. And if visitors came on the set, he'd make a point to walk up and say hello, allowing you to introduce them to him. And he made everybody feel pretty special. I worked with Irwin Allen for the last 18 years of his life, and we were sitting there one day going over some scenes of a future project that he had, and he turned to me and says, "You know, Joe, I miss William Holden. I mean, Bill made Irwin feel special."
I remember I'd already been shooting with Bill Holden. Now, I knew who Bill Holden was, but I really hadn't seen his movies. But Paul Newman was just my biggest crush ever. I just had such a crush on him, and I thought he was the most brilliant actor since I'd been studying acting. Of course, I knew his work. I remember the day that Bill Holden said, he was just saying, "Susie, come here, I want you to meet Paul." I was in such shock that I couldn't talk, and all I could do was say, I can't talk now, I'm preparing," which was a joke. I wasn't preparing at all. But I just had to walk away and breathe deeply, you know, and then come back. I was that much of a mess.
I was very anxious to see Fred Astaire, because I had worshipped him as a young man. And Fred came to everyday shooting dressed immaculately, with beautiful tie and shirt, immaculate blazer, and $1,000 shoes, and he really looked like a movie star should look.
The interesting thing about Fred is that he spent an awful lot of time with the extras and the crew. It seemed to be more time with them than he did with his fellow luminaries. And I thought that showed him to be a very unpretentious fellow. Sweet, what a sweet man.
There was a bedroom scene with Faye Dunaway, and Faye at that time really was very modest and was very careful and wore appropriate pajamas and so forth. And Paul, of course, just stripped down to his shorts in front of 40 or 50 people on the set, got in bed, and Faye took quite a while to get there. And you could tell when she walked up to the bed, she was a little timid and unsure somewhat. So Paul flipped the blankets back, and he had a pair of cowboy boots with spurs on, and he clicked the spurs and said, "Well, Faye, is this kinky enough for you?" And it just absolutely just shattered the set. Everybody just went crazy on the set.
I recall that Steve and Paul were pranksters on the set, and they were always kind of fooling around like young kids with each other.
They had a good time doing the movie. They brought a lot of humor to the set. There were several outtakes as a result of some of the comments.
The fireman's hat that they had, when he went in for his fitting, Steve McQueen said, "No, I want the brim. The brim should be higher. It should be further out. I want it changed, like, I want it moved like this and this." And they looked at him and they said, "But we've already got all of the extras. It'd be like $50,000 to change these hats." He said, "Change them." And you know what? He looked great with that hat. And you know what? That's what it's about. People want to see stars looking like that.
It was one of those movies that even when the actors weren't working, it was like they left to come on the set to see what everyone was blowing up next or what he was doing.
There's something called a breeches buoy, which is a thing that they run up the side of a building and you get in it, and then they suspend it and drop you down. Get the hell out of there! Richard Chamberlain pushed me out of the breeches buoy, and I went falling to the ground.
They wanted to film you coming down. They wanted to see your face, I guess. And I was up for it. Everybody else was doing it. And it looked okay. You fall on this big soft thing. That was really scary because we had to fall 20 feet something. That's a fair fall. And then land on these wonderful pillows. But if you land wrong, of course, you can still hurt yourself.
Certainly I was more than impressed by the fire scenes when they would, these stunt people would light themselves on fire, and it was always a big deal. All of us came out to watch, and I would just freak out. I just couldn't watch. I start screaming, I had to leave the room. It was horrible to see people light themselves on fire. And I guess that wasn't done a lot back then.
I wanted to do the stunt myself. They wouldn't let me. I was very disappointed. I wanted to go out that window into this huge airbag. I thought this would be so great. And I kept saying, I want to do it. Irwin said, no, you can't do it. I said, well, what's the worst thing that'll happen? He said, you break your neck. I said, oh, well, I suppose that's possible, but I think I can make it. The sequence where my character gets ready to jump, the fire was literally all around me, and everyone was on the other side of it. And it had to come towards her in order to justify the movement out. But it was a little dicey there for a split second. Got very hot, really hot, in that last split second, before they went with the stuff and put the fire out.
Disaster films are popular because an element of possibility of death.
It's really thrilling, and you're sort of there, and you're very, very alive.
It's just kind of a classic tale. Fate brings you to that moment.
People generally love to be awakened.
I think anything that could be, we identify with, and how do people survive and how do they act? Is it their better part of them that responds, and is it about helping people, or is it your lower, baser self that's about, just save me, And I think that's what's interesting. I think it's the psychology of the human spirit.